All right, very good. So hi everyone, welcome to today's presentation on CACFP production records. My name is Bridget Ressi and I will be your trainer this afternoon. All right, so this training was developed based on the new requirement that took effect October 1st, 2024, which requires CACFP programs to begin using production records to document the amount of food required, as well as the amount of food actually purchased and prepared. Many of the benefits to using production records, as well as the introduction to using production records, is in the training from September that our office conducted. This training was recorded and posted to the ONPS CACFP Information Buffet YouTube channel, which houses all of the recorded trainings we do monthly. The training is called Meal Production. Please refer to that training for more information on the basics of CACFP production records. This training today will do a bit of a deeper dive now that you have started using them, as we clarify any areas of confusion that Patty and I have been asked about or that we've noticed on administrative reviews we've conducted. All right, and then I also just posted a link in the chat to the YouTube channel that I just referenced for all of our recorded training. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. If you have a blank copy of the production record or one you've completed in front of you, that would be useful for today's training, though it's not required. Feel free to just follow along. We're going to head right into the amounts required column. So here you will record the total minimum amount of each food component required for the projected number of participants. And this is based on number of participants, their ages, and CACFP meal patterns, serving sizes. And I have the applicable links as a reference point. I know you can't click on them during this presentation, but know that when it is posted to the YouTube channel, we'll have like a notes section, and I'll be sure to put the links directly in there as well, so you'll be able to access that. Instead of doing many calculations and looking at the meal pattern and serving sizes, you can utilize the meal requirements calculator, input the number of participants in each corresponding age group, and get the number or amount in units to copy right into this amounts required column. I'm not going to spend too much time here because we've gotten really great feedback on this particular tool, the meal requirements calculator, and cooks and directors seem to find this helpful. This has been helpful overall. Okay, so in the same column, this amounts required column, do be sure to record amounts with the weight or measure unit as listed in the CACFP meal pattern. For example, you'll list milk, fruits, and vegetables in cups. Grains are listed in cups or ounce equivalents based on the product. And then meat or meat alternates lists in ounces, cups, tablespoons, or number of eggs, again, just dependent on the product. Now, moving forward to the amounts prepared column, which is seemingly to be the more challenging column for folks, which is totally valid. So we're going to spend some time going over what is expected in this column, as well as tips and tricks, and then common mistakes that we see. So here you will record the planned or actual quantity of food to prepare, documented in purchase units, so gallons, number of number 10 cans, etc. Ultimately, this column shows you what and how much to open or use when preparing the meal. This will save you on time and will save money knowing you're only purchasing and then opening what's required. So in theory, if we know based on the amounts required column how much of a food item is required, we would then be able to say that the amount to be prepared amount must be at least the total in the amounts required column. And the resource used to complete this column is the Food Buying Guide calculator. So we also have the Food Buying Guide calculator instructions to go with it, posted on the CACFP ONPS webpage, and that Food Buying Guide Calculator Instructions worksheet is a great guide to help you in navigating how to use the calculator. So the demo where I show a video using the Food Buying Guide is in the meal production training. Again, this was recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So again, very in-depth demonstration of the Food Buying Guide is already available on our YouTube page. So here are the two most common mistakes we see with the amounts to be prepared column of the production record. If the amounts required column states that you need 26 cups of corn, for example, the amounts to be prepared column is mistakenly used to record the same amount, so 26 cups, or an amount slightly higher or rounded up, such as 30 cups. The main reason we don't want to see this is because it doesn't actually reflect what's being purchased and prepared. It really just adds to the paperwork burden without serving as the helpful tool that it's intended to be. So when a cook or whoever is doing the cooking looks at the amounts to be prepared column, it really should provide a realistic amount in the appropriate units to be more efficient while meeting CACFP meal requirements. So let's look at an example of this. So here is a sample production record for a lunch or supper meal, and the amounts to be prepared documented in purchase units. So now we're going to use this information and look at a comparison of the correct versus incorrect way to document the amounts to be prepared column. So the next few slides are going to go off of this example. So first, chicken tenders. And again, I'm going to go back. This is just the example we're using, so that's how we got the chicken. First, the chicken tenders. Now we're using the same food and amounts I just showed on the previous slide as the example. So the amounts required according to the meal requirements calculator is 67.5 ounces. So that would be documented in the amount required column. Again, we're focusing on this amount to be prepared column. So the incorrect documentation for the amount to be prepared column is 67.5 ounces, or rounded up to the nearest ounce, like 68 ounces. So we don't want you to simply put in the same number as the amounts required column, because when you go to the store, you're not looking to buy 67.5 ounces of chicken, you're looking to buy something in pounds. So the correct documentation is 6 pounds of raw chicken tenders, boneless, frozen, skinless. Amount of detail, the more detail, the better. So, and again, I got this 6 pounds raw chicken tenders by using the Food Buying Guide calculator. So next, we have green beans. So according to the example production record, we need 11 cups of green beans. And again, that's what the meal requirements calculator told us. 11 cups are required. So the incorrect documentation for the amount to be prepared column would simply be 11 cups, or if you round it up to 12 cups, that's what we don't want to see. The correct documentation for 11 cups of green beans and the amount to be prepared column would be 1 number 10 can or 7 number 300 cans for canned green beans. Okay, next up is strawberries. So we're serving whole, fresh strawberries for this meal. So the amounts required column told us from the meal requirements calculator that we need 11 cups of whole, fresh strawberries. So again, the incorrect documentation is exactly the same, 11 cups or rounded up to 12 cups. The correct documentation would be 6 pints or 4 1/4 pounds. All right, and then we have bread, and we're serving whole wheat bread for this meal. So the amount required calculator told us that we need 25 ounce equivalents or 25 slices. Again, incorrect documentation would be that same number, and the correct documentation would be 1.5 20 ounce loaves. So again, when you go to the grocery store and you're telling your cook to go to the grocery store, you wouldn't tell them you need to pick up 25 slices of bread. You would tell them how many loaves of bread to pick up. So that amount to pre-prepared column is simply helping you with the menu in the meal pattern planning. So finally, the last one is milk. So amounts required is 5 cups, which you'll see here on this example, 5 cups for whole milk, and then 28.75 cups for skim milk. So again, incorrect documentation is listing 5 cups in the amounts to be prepared column. Skim milk, again, just stating the same amount as the amounts to be required column. We don't want that. Instead, the correct documentation for the amounts to be prepared column would be 1 gallon for whole milk or 2 gallons for skim milk. All right, so using a recipe or serving store-bought combination foods or processed meats like meatballs, corn dogs, chicken nuggets, pizza, beef patties, this slide explains information on what to document on the production record for these foods. For time purposes, I am going to just keep moving forward, but do feel free to either screenshot this slide or come back and pause on the recording. I do want to flag that if you are looking for recipes that have CACFP crediting information, including the CACFP meal pattern contribution information per serving, please do check out the Institute of Child Nutrition. Their child nutrition recipe box is full of some really great resources, some really great recipes with this information included. I also want to mention that we understand if programs are not fully there in terms of having standardized recipes or CACFP meal pattern contribution information in each of their recipes. But please just know this is the direction we're moving forward. And then here, we will review some common foods served and how to document quantity and purchase units in the amounts to be prepared column. So again, I won't go through each of these for time purposes, but do feel free to take a screenshot, a picture, or come back to the slide on the recording. Hopefully, this helps to kind of provide a cheat sheet for what is expected in that amounts to be prepared column. Okay. So the last segment of this, I really wanted to dive into some frequently asked questions because we have been receiving a lot about production records, which is great. So let's review 4 of the most frequently asked questions we've been receiving so far. So the first question here is, if production records have the specific milk recorded, does the menu have to list the specific milks offered? And yes, it's required that the type of milk offered be documented on menus. The second question is, on the production record, how do you write the grains and meats when you serve an item that has a CN label? So this would be specific to like chicken nuggets or pizza, where the CN label is crediting both the meat as well as the grain. And the answer here is to write the name of the item next to the component it credits for. So for example, for cheese pizza on the meat alternate line, write cheese pizza, and you can write CN, child nutrition label in parentheses. And then on the grains line, write pizza crust, CN label. Then in the comments column, you can check the CN label box and provide the crediting information for each component that will credit towards the meal pattern. So I do have an example here listed. So going with the cheese pizza example, you would put cheese pizza under meat alternate. You would write CN in parentheses. For the grains component, pizza crust, CN in parentheses. And then in order to flag that this product, the pizza, has a CN label associated with it, you can check it off in the comment section of the production record. And if you even want to be even more detail oriented, you can say what the CN contribution to the meal pattern is. So it will tell you right on the box, if it has a CN label, 1 slice of pizza equals 2 ounces of meat alternate, 1 ounce equivalent of grain. And that will be really helpful for whoever's preparing the meal and serving the meals to know, okay, yes, this is how much pizza we prepared, because the contribution serving sizes tells us that, yes, we have met this requirement. So this is definitely a best practice. By no means, if you're not here yet, that's okay. It's just a common question we have been receiving. So the next question is, if my site has a rotating menu, can the production records be the same every month? And this is a really good question. It does have a little bit of nuance to it, so let's just get into it. So It's kind of a yes and a no. So it is unlikely that the projected participants column will always be the same because, you might have different attendance from day to day, and that would alter the amount on the production record, right? Because all of our calculations are coming from the number of participants that are projected. So if we're kind of following by that rule, the production records would never be exactly the same if you have not the same number of participants every day. However, generally, production records can definitely look similar from month to month. If you have the same food items in a rotating or cycle menu, that's definitely a benefit of using a cycle menu, is that you really only have to do the brunt of the production record work once, and then kind of adjust dependent on the number of participants. So using a cycle menu there can therefore help lessen the paperwork burden. Additionally, a menu may indicate chef's choice. We do see that often, and then the food item is written in the morning of, and this is allowable. However, the production record should indicate the specific food items that were served, which may not always be the same. We typically see this, sometimes chef choice can be listed on the menu if the center just kind of plans to use whatever they have left over for then, which is fine. But again, you want to make sure you're recording what you actually do serve in the production record. And this also applies to any menu changes or substitutions. So again, that may be another reason why your production records might not look the same exactly every month or every day, is because you might have a menu change or a substitution, and you do need to record any menu substitutions on menus and production records, including correct food amounts prepared. So generally, production records can absolutely look similar if you're going off of a cycle menu, but it would be difficult to kind of just do a copy and paste because of some of these reasons. Okay, and then the last question is for our adult daycare centers. The production record does indicate an area for ineligible adults on the production record, and so who is considered ineligible adults? So this is simply just the projected participants column on the ADC, the Adult Daycare Center production records, that have a spot for the ineligible adults. This is simply just adults that are staff. Typically on child care production records, we mean adults to be like staff, but we didn't want the Adult Daycare Center participants, we didn't want to put a blanket statement on adults because we didn't want to get that confused with the adult participants and the adult staff. So ineligible adults includes adults that are staff members, and that's very important because you can't claim the staff meals. So you'd only record the ineligible adults if the staff are eating meals. So I hope that clarifies that. All right, well, thank you all for your work thus far in training your sites and your staff on production records. We know this may not be an easy lift in many ways due to staff turnover and the amount of paperwork that's already associated with this program. But thus far, Patty and I have been seeing some really, really great efforts through our administrative reviews and with using production records. So we are continuing to collect feedback. So please continue emailing us with any successes or challenges so that as an office, we can evaluate what is and what is not working for our CACFP programs in New Hampshire. Any testimonials you can provide would be a great assistance to us. Please also continue reaching out with your questions. Questions on production records really help us to clarify areas of confusion that are likely facing more than one agency, and questions also help us to develop training such as this one. I also want to remind everyone to please feel free to send production records for review to our office or reach out for one-on-one training. We value your feedback and partnership, and so here's the non-discrimination statement, and now we'll open it up to any questions you may have.